Okay, now that I have your attention, Mohrta is a retro dark fantasy souls-like boomer shooter with goon bait. It was made by Scumhead in the GZ Doom engine. The game has tons of style, with great level designs, a little bit of world building, and evocative music. I'm sure people want to talk more about the goon bait, but there's pretty incredible moments on the soundtrack that should be appreciated. We'll talk more about that as they come up. A playthrough of the game can take about 10 hours on the longer side and 5 hours if you're pretty good. Potentially even 2 hours if you're speedrunning. We're gonna go through the game in about an hour, hopefully. So if you don't like shooting games but you're kind of interested in seeing what happens, this is it. Alright, here we go. So basically, we're dead. We're game over. Okay, not really. We're a corpse stuffed into a robot. We're a Generation 7 Hayward with high synchronicity to the strange, prime candidate for a divine century. Our mission is to eliminate the rebel Generation 1 Hayward, Avlon, his last known location being Kosenoda, a mining village. We get our standard equipment including our blade, a gun, a mana gourd, a bottomless bag, the organic lantern beast, the van, and a horse. We arrive at Kosenoda, and for some reason the horse just doesn't follow us. He stays right there. I really don't know why he came. We're gonna go through the basic mechanics of the game before we start speeding through things. Starting off, we have the Hayward Blade and the Revolver. Every weapon has a normal attack and a secondary attack, which consumes mana instead of ammo. The Hayward Blade does swings, or it'll fire off a projectile shot. The Revolver will do single shots, or it'll rapid fire 6 shots. We also have our mana gourd, which gives us mana during battle. The gourd itself can only be refilled at a save point. We can also dash, which has invincibility frames, and is also fast as fuck! I don't really think the fucking horse was necessary, to be entirely honest. Just look at this shit. Anyway, so, our first enemies are demon dogs and bandit warriors. Enemy spawns are specifically placed, and they don't respawn after being killed, even if you leave the world and come back. They also drop mana and ammo. There's 4 different ammo types, and guns that share the same ammo type will also share the same ammo reserves. Up ahead, we find our first Pilgrim Stone, which is just the bonfire of the game. We can save here, and they also heal us. Past the Pilgrim Stone, we find a dying Kosenodan guard, who mentions the strange, and also recognizes us as a Hayward. And then we get another cutscene. Okay, so we found the healing doll, which is very self-explanatory and doesn't need any further elaboration whatsoever, because this is a totally normal thing. We work our way through the village into the mining caves where we find a Kosenodan and a monster together. They're dead, but they're together. There's also this bottomless pit, but you can't fall in because the game has invisible walls around all potential pitfalls, which I thought was a good design decision. At the end of the caves, we fight Igoro, the bandit warlord, boss of the introduction level. He swipes at us with his cleaver, and then he'll dig into his body to take out chunks of meat, which he throws, and then they explode, because the bandits eat the Kosenodan's dynamite. So I guess the bandits are like fucking Kirby or something. And then after defeating Igoro, we transcend space and time, traveling across dimensions to arrive at this Metro Nexus, which is this sort of hub station of the universe. This place is really cool. There's a lot of cool character designs here. Every NPC can be talked to, but only 6 of them have dialogue that changes as you progress through the game. For now, we'll talk to this Elder Moke, a horseman. He calls us Mohrta, which means hunter in his language. He explains that the Metro Nexus is a hub for the dimensions in this sector. He also mentions the Outer Wars, which is something that'll come up later. Next to the Moke, we have Rimri, who has a fantastic character design. Look at her go! She'll upgrade our healing dolls with buttons that we find in the levels for a total of 8 heals. Over here in the train car, we have Don Braago, who is a blue smoking lion that canonically believes in interspecies romance. Because according to him, lion women aren't as good. He upgrades our mana gourd with his crystal fucking meth or whatever, giving us more mana refills. Off to the side here is a robot that won't talk to us until we ring the bell. But it's not a robot at all! It's Hitch, a cricket lady thing, piloting a robot. She's the blacksmith of the game here. She'll upgrade our weapons and armor with strange ore that we find. And with the 4 ore that we found in Kosenoda, we can actually get our first armor upgrade now. Since the game doesn't have multiple difficulty settings, I'm assuming that if you want to make the game harder, you just avoid the upgrades. In the corner is Yoruga, who I promise you is a worm lady. She'll melt down weapons that we don't want, giving us 3 strange ore for each. And there's also a special chest behind her, giving us a freebie. Now, the Metro Nexus is cool, and there's lots of little characters that we can talk to, but for now, we're gonna go upstairs and talk to Leun. In Leun's chamber here, we have access to the 5 different dimensions in this sector of the universe, and there's also the Black Gate, which leads to the Dark Tower, which is where Avlan is waiting. He's of course hidden the 5 ruins needed to open the Black Gate in the 5 separate dimensions. We're gonna ignore the fact that Leun has her fucking saggy titties out, and we're gonna listen to this very important explanation here. In this sector of the universe, each dimension overlaps each other, occupying the same space, like looking at the same world through a different lens. What we call the strange is when dimensions leak into each other, causing strange, potentially dangerous things to occur, and it allows different beings to cross over into different dimensions, like the bandits that attacked Kosenoda. We'll talk more about this later. We can start with any world we want, and we can even just leave and go to a different world if we feel like it. But for this, we're gonna go through it all in order, so we're gonna start at World 1, the Guarding Graves. In this dimension, the strange has corrupted and reanimated the dead. It's a nice, lush-looking, vibrant world. If you ignore the horrific abominations, it's really quite nice. Off to the side here, we can find a ladder which shows us that there's shortcuts that we can open throughout the levels. Moving on ahead, we find a peaceful river, and after killing this baby, we spend a few moments enjoying the vibe, marinating in the afterglow of our bloodlust. Upstream from the river, we meet Rook, a recently awakened golem. Rook is trying to find the old hero's tomb. He says he was made by the ancient society that used to populate this dimension. He sniffs us and says that we're like him, which is a reference to us being a golem. He also mentions that we're not very talkative, confirming that we have autism. Rook is going to stay and admire the scenery for a while, which I can understand, so we'll go on ahead. We find an alien in his spaceship, but more importantly, we find some strange ore. I'm not good at this game, I need those armor upgrades. We work our way through a cave system out into a cemetery, where we fight a rebel Hayward, one of Avlan's followers. All Haywards drop strange ore when they are defeated. They kind of function like elite monsters on the map, I suppose. Not all of the Haywards will be this simple to find. Over here we drop the ladder we saw earlier, which leads us back to the first pilgrim stone of the area, and then we can continue forward to the boss of the stage. This mysterious Hayward is upset at stuff. They say those touched by strange are doomed to become destroyers. But we were born to destroy. An undead corpse brought back to life, barely sentient. More machine than man. And then they call us a savage and take off their cloak, revealing their big furry titties. Which I found very distracting, because, you know, I was so invested in her speech, her manifesto, and her very, very intriguing dreams, and her titties look really fucking good. During the fight, I actually ran out of bullets, so I had to use my devastating technique of walking in a circle and swinging a stick. This is where the Dark Souls influence can really be seen. After kicking her furry ass, Yuli crumbles to the ground. She's about to make a final stand, but is shocked at the sight of the living doll in our care, which is understandable. Confused, she falls off the cliff, and we continue our journey without confirming her death. As a reward, we get her shotgun, the trench gun. The secondary fire can be used to do high jumps, which potentially allows you to skip parts of the game. Avlan is actually waiting for us over here, but not in his physical form. He's disgusted at what the Haywards have done to us. A corpse stuffed into an iron shell called Generation 7. We've begun to see how the strange interacts with the world after going through Kosenoda and a little bit of World 1 here, the Guarding Graves. Avalon believes the Haywards are fools for destroying and containing the strange, believing it better to allow the strange to grow freely as a natural chaotic force of the universe. If the strange is inevitable, we should instead befriend it, as he says. He will wait for us at the Dark Tower, beyond the Black Gate, believing that we will see things his way after we witness each of the 5 worlds. Avalon is basically a chaotic existential naturalist, which is something we'll unpack later. So from everything so far, we can gather that the Haywards are a force that deliberately goes out to contain the strange. They also have some degree of longevity, which we can surmise right now based off the fact that we have 7 generations of Haywards and the dying Kosenoda guard, plus the Metro Nexus denizens recognize us on sight as a Hayward. So basically, the Haywards are dimension cops, and they wear cloaks, and they fight things that they call strange, which is vaguely racist if you think about it. Oh, there's no wonder why I like this game. So, after meeting Avalon, we see a giant hand over this building, and enter Stage 2 of World 1, the Ancient Mausoleum. The music and set design going into this is fucking awesome. The song is called The Old Hero's Tomb, and it's perhaps the most happy, enchanting track in the game. There is a sort of light, flowery fantasy feel to it, and the track demonstrates a command of melodic composition and harmony and layering. As we hear more songs, we'll find that Scumhead not only has a dexterous ability to craft a melodious tune, but these songs are truly evocative, embodying and increasing the vibe of each area they appear in. It's one thing to make a song, it's another thing to make a song with your own unique style. And it's another thing entirely to make a soundtrack filled with distinct songs that carry your unique personal imprint while evoking the feelings of entirely different dimensions. The songs we hear in World 1 are not gonna sound like the songs in World 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. They all have their own distinct character. It's very smart songwriting. You know, both in terms of being background music for a video game to evoke certain vibes, but also just individually on their own, they're really good. Anyway, we meet Rook again, who has begun calling us Big Bro, because we're both golems. He explains that ceramic golems like himself increase their power and lifespan by ingesting bones, which is why he wants to find the old hero's tomb, to get the most awesome bones of all. It's also at this point where he wonders if we even have the ability to talk, but he decides it doesn't matter because we're still awesome despite our autism. There's a big door that won't open, which is preventing us from going deeper into the tomb. The mausoleum has 4 doors on each corner, each going to a separate area, each of which contains a lever, which will ignite a flame on one of the 4 statues in the main mausoleum. Once we pull all the levers, the big door will open and we can continue. One lever is deep in a cavern surrounded by pitch black nothingness, and another is outside on a small island in the middle of an ocean. It's nothing extravagant, because this is a retro-style game, after all, but the set design still managed to be quite striking. So, we get all 4 levers and go through the big door, which leads us outside, where we see a gigantic skeleton, laid out in a sassy draw-me-like-one-of-your-French girls pose. Despite what it may look like, we're climbing onto his finger, not his dick. This is his hand, although technically it is still a boner. At the top of the skeleton, we come face to face with the ancient warrior. The strategy is to stand slightly off-center and jump and shoot. After defeating him, we get ourselves a Bone Riddler, or a boner, which we handle one-handed. It's like an automatic pistol. The boner's secondary fire shoots out homing bullets, which isn't very good, to be entirely honest. Overall, the boner is kind of mid, which is a sentence I've heard many times. Honestly, I'm just gonna say it now. I stuck with the trench gun for like 90% of the game. Anyway, moving on, we enter the final stage of this world, the Hive, which will have all bug-type monsters. We start off in this cozy cove, but just a little further ahead, we enter a cavern filled with these glowing blue mushrooms, serving as one of the more visually impressive areas in the game. Despite looking cool, there's not a whole lot to do here, so we find a key, which will open a gated passageway and then head back to the Nexus to upgrade our mana gourd and our armor. So right away, in World 1, we have 2 out of 3 armor upgrades. We go back to the hive, and we fight our way through all of these bug monsters until we meet a friendly little creature who will give us a ride all the way back to the Cozy Cove, where we can rest and save at our little bonfire here. We can then talk to the creature again, and it'll take us back to where we found it, so it's a nice little shortcut. We're finally out of the caves, and we find Rook again, who has found the resting place of the old hero. Now that we've arrived, Rook opens the coffin, and it's apparently just a normal pile of bones. A scathing commentary on how no matter who you are in life, in the end, you're just dust and bones. I guess. I don't really know. But Rook decides to take the bones with him anyway, storing them in his coffin so he can show off the legendary hero bones to the other golems before he eats them. Rook thanks us for our help and gives us a button, which we can take back to Rimri, giving us our second healing charge. This completes the NPC quest of this world, and to get the true ending, Ending D, you need to complete all NPC quests, of which there are one for each world. Moving on from Rook, we find an obvious boss room which is unlocked by finding 2 keys. The game is very nice in that it always puts save points before a boss. So in that cutscene, we can see that there's a queen, but we're gonna fight the Emperor Beetle first. It's a good boss. It's it's a bug beetle thing. I feel like it's not too hard, but it will be the first real boss that gives people a little bit of trouble. But yeah, after defeating the beetle, we get a new weapon, the larva launcher, which is just the grenade launcher of the game. The secondary fire sends out grubs, which will skitter around and bite the ankles of our enemies. It's a pretty decent weapon. Now, finally, we meet the final boss of World 1, the Hive Queen, who is both shocked and angry to see us, as this, of course, means that we've killed her lover, the Emperor Beetle. That Emperor Beetle dick must be insane. I've seen the other bugs in this hive. They're not nearly as big as the beetle. It's gonna be hard to replace that dick. It's a pretty good fight, and it has the most elaborate music that we've heard so far in the game, which is appropriate for the final boss of the world. So, after the cutscene, we collect our first ruin, and that's it for World 1. There's nothing left. One thing worth noting is that the Emperor Beetle and the Queen both have attacks that will be expanded upon by bosses that we'll see in the other worlds. We don't have reason to be at the Metro Nexus right now. The unique NPC dialogues progress after we defeat 3 worlds and 5 worlds. And also at this point, we don't have enough to upgrade anything right now, so we're just gonna go straight into World 2, the Molten Caverns. World 2 represents a very different vibe to World 1. In contrast to the lush greenery, vibrant colors, and enchanting music of the garden, World 2 is hell. We start off in the Molten Caverns, and as we navigate through the lava volcano, we come across industrial machinery. Also, the enemies we encounter here appear to be some sort of lava constructs. They're like half machine and half magic. We can also find and fight a new type of Hayward here. These Haywards actually share the same attack patterns as Yuli. There are also these docile lava bugs that we can find throughout the level. In particular, this bug we are meant to ride across this large lava lake. The thing is, you will not instantly die if you touch lava. The game will only calculate damage if you remain in the lava for a certain amount of time, meaning you can just quickly jump your way across the lake without taking damage, and you don't have to deal with the slow but cute kind of lava bug ride. After a little bit more nonsense, we get to the boss of this level, the Lava Elemental. He's kind of cool looking, I guess. I think this boss is pretty straightforward, so after beating him, we get the Molten Fists, which are just an alternative melee weapon to the Hayward Blade. I didn't use any of the other melee weapons, to be entirely honest. I felt they're kind of too risky by the time you get them. So I'm just gonna melt all those down for the Strange Ore. If you really want to use melee, I feel like the upgraded Hayward Blade is fine. The entrance to level 2 of the world is over here. This is actually one of the skips you can do with a trench gun jump, potentially skipping through most of this level and the boss. We're gonna enter level 2 of World 2, the Broom Factory. Broom being the archaic French word for mist or fog. This is one of my favorite levels in the game. The enemies that populate this level are these sort of goat-looking snow demon guys with lava guns, who I'm assuming are the broom demons. They're kind of fucking weird. They like to shout Peter or hater when they see you. There's also a variety of security robots which we'll encounter as we navigate the rest of World 2. While we're going through the factory, periodically we hear a jingle, and a voice will make an announcement over the intercom. You can hear the voice say, Mohrta, in the speech. So, I mentioned earlier, the game handles lava damage in a weird way. In this spot, if we say fuck it and jump through the lava, we'll be rewarded with strange ore. So it's definitely, I think, a self-aware design decision. Eventually, after working our way through this hell factory, we run into the NPC of this world, Saipo. Saipo is an organic being whose mind was stuffed into a robot by the demons. All the other robots in the factory are his brethren. I'm assuming they're of some sort of race that had been conquered by the broom demons. Somehow, Saipo retained his consciousness, so the demons tore him apart when they found out and hid his pieces across the factory. After we gather all of Saipo's parts, we repair him. Now that he's been repaired, he intends to help us fight the final boss of this world, the Machine Mind, which controls the entire robot operation. Before we ascend the factory to the Machine Mind, we first need to defeat the Demon Princess who built the factory in the first place. So after clearing out the factory and getting all the keys to open all the doors and repairing Saipo, we can go fight the princess. The Demon Princess is one of my favorite bosses in the game. You step into her chambers, and you get hit with her boss music, which starts with war drums. The princess laughs in her evil voice, the same voice that was making all the announcements over the intercom that we've been hearing this whole time. And then she turns around, showing off those demon titties, and it's just total fucking cinema, man. The finger snap right before the fight starts is just fucking sexy, and her boss music is one of the best tracks in the game. It's even one of the very few tracks with vocals, specifically a female tribal wail, which just sounds fucking divine. It's one of the most dark and intense tracks on the soundtrack, which is appropriate because the Demon Princess is one of the more overtly evil characters in this game. Everything about her presentation and design and in this fight is just perfect. I fucking just want her to step all over me. I want to be one of these Oscar demons. If you're going through the worlds in the recommended order, I feel like this is one of the most exhilarating boss battles you can have in the game. At this point in the game, you know, we only have 2 out of 4 mana refills, 3 out of a total 8 health refills, 2 out of 3 armor upgrades, and no weapon upgrades. The princess has a lot of life, even for a boss, compared to the other bosses, so she's gonna be a damage sponge without any weapon upgrades whatsoever. On top of that, she's an ad boss, so she summons simps and robots periodically to help her, making the battle even more chaotic. She wields a sick-ass lava gun and throws grenades at you as you fight in her open boss arena. I can see how some people might think at this point in the game the boss is too difficult, but I felt like it was perfectly difficult. It got my heart pumping more than any other point in the game. Unfortunately, we cannot simp for the princess forever. We defeat her and we get her lava gun, which is an alternative choice to the Hayward revolver. The lava gun doesn't need to reload, and the secondary fire shoots in a cross shape, just like the princess in her boss fight. As a side note, all of the sexy monsters die falling face forward, which I feel like is a fatal design flaw in the game. Saipo calls her the Whore Princess. Her music is even called Whore Princess. So I'm assuming this means that all of the simps around the factory have been her children. So this means that the princess is an incest queen, which just makes her hotter. We move on into the final level of World 2, the Tower of Communion. Level 3 of World 2 is probably one of the hardest levels in the game. You go through this sort of gauntlet and it's a grueling experience. The game is nice enough to have these elevators which take you back to Saipo and the Pilgrim Stone, so they'll function as shortcuts, essentially. But it's actually kind of easy to miss these elevators. So you might mistakenly believe that you have to go through the entire gauntlet in one trip. However, once you finish it, at the end, we fight the next boss, an Armored Core. I kind of assume the demons made the Armored Core to protect the machine mind, which seems to function as the brains of the factory and the robots. When you think about it, that just makes the demon princess more badass. She could have had the Armored Core defending her, but instead, she waits for you in person and shoots you with a fucking lava gun because she doesn't give a shit about anything. Her music is also just way fucking better than the Armored Core, to be entirely honest. It's certainly the best track of World 2. After we defeat the Armored Core, we get another weapon, the Rail Bunker, which uses red ammo, so it'll replace our larva launcher. The Rail Bunker is basically a lava cannon, so it fires off powerful shots. Now that we finally finished all of that, we're at the end of the factory and we can fight the final boss, the Machine Mind. Since we've repaired Saipo, he'll be here to help us fight the boss. Without Saipo's help, the boss is kind of a fucking pain in the ass. You have these 4 machine arms to contend with, and the boss will constantly summon these robot assists that attack you. So without Saipo to divert their attention, all of those attacks go to you. Aside from the Saipo dynamic of this boss fight, I don't have a whole lot to say. It's just a chaotic mess of machinery attacking everything all over the fucking place. The boss music's pretty hype, I guess. It's not as good as Whore Princess, but it's pretty good. It's one of the few tracks alongside Whore Princess that has vocals. After taking down the machine mind, we find Saipo in the corner where he thanks us for all of our help. And he basically says that he intends to just die here alone in the factory, where hopefully no one will ever be turned into a machine ever again. And that's it for World 2. We grab our ruin and then leave so that Saipo can die alone. And now we're gonna go straight into World 3, the Plaguemire, because we don't have anything to do with the Nexus at this point. Disease has seeped from a distant manor, accumulating into a rotten gulch. The dragons who used to dance in the skies now feed the vile monsters who stalk the murky water. I really like the Plaguemire. It's a very distinctive level, and again, it's a massive contrast to the worlds before it. I found myself genuinely wary of every turn and corner as I navigated the levels for the first time, wondering what horrors might come out. As we enter the Rotten Gulch for the first time, we're greeted by the sight of a corrupted dragon flying across the skies. The music for this level is appropriately titled Disease. I feel like this world in particular does a really good job at setting its tone. You can just feel the rot and decay emanate from the screen. And again, when you're going through the worlds in order, you start with World 1, which is very enchanting and fantastic. There's a lighthearted, whimsical nature to it. It's very vibrant and fun. And then you get to World 2, which is much more severe because of all the lava and the red mist that permeates all the level design. And it's very action-heavy, so it's very intense. On top of that, you spend most of World 2 fighting robots and literal demons. But then you get to World 3 and things kind of slow down a little bit. You know, you step out into the Rotten Gulch for the first time and it's not a welcoming sight at all. You know, you're naturally incentivized to take your time because you're just kind of wary of what could be out there. And the music track that accompanies this whole rotten presentation, Disease, it's not hype at all, of course not. It's very dreary. it doesn't put you in like a warrior spirit whatsoever. You don't feel like a badass. Again, this is a relatively simple game made in the GZ Doom engine, but it still manages to be quite evocative in all it tries to do. The enemies in this level are appropriately all corrupted abominations. In particular are these what I assume are baby dragons, whose heads will split open Ichi the Killer style to attack you with their horrible gaping maws. The baby dragons will also play dead, leading to potential jump scares if you're not careful. Our goal here in the Rotten Gulch is to find 3 pieces of a key, which will open a gate that allows us to fight the boss of this level. Next to one of these pieces, we find a dead Hayward and his journal. This Hayward was sent to this dimension before it became corrupted. His mission was to document strange behavior, but originally, this dimension was a paradise where the people, led by a man called Davin, and dragons lived in harmony, with the dragons being playful, affectionate creatures. Confused but happy, the Hayward stayed in this dimension longer than intended, wondering where the dangers of the strange are that he was warned about when he received his mission. We examined the Hayward's black box, and from it, we learned that one day, a mass of rot fell from the sky. Davin had grown obsessed with it, raving about some sort of mother. Davin began experimenting on this rotten mass, and even began experimenting on his own people and the dragons. This spiraled out of control until the entire dimension became a plagued land of decay. So yeah, that sucks. We take our finished key and go over to the boss arena and open the gate, where we fight a giant squid with a bootleg Jaws theme song. So I'm gonna spoil it for you now. The thing about World 3's bosses is that they're cool, but they're really easy. Especially with the upgraded trench gun, you know, they go down pretty quick, man. It's just a little bit of a shame, you know, because obviously World 3, based off design presentation, it wants you to remain afraid. It wants you to be intimidated. But at some point, you kind of realize that the level of danger just isn't there. The vibe is fucking on point, but after the gauntlet of World 2, World 3 just, the danger level has taken too far of a step down. So after we fucking destroy the squid, we get a new weapon, the Deep Gun, which is the minigun of the game, and it will replace our boner. The Deep Gun is much bigger than our boner, so it just feels like it gets the job done better. And now we enter the second level of World 3, Davin's Manor. This is another one of my favorite levels in the game. It's creepy and unsettling, especially the first time you go through it. But most of all, I find it rather tragic. The music track of this level, which is called Davin, it has a melody which drips with pure tragedy. It makes the whole thing rather sad more than it is creepy. The manor has locked doors that we open with keys we find throughout the level. There is evidence of Davin's experiments, and I think this one in particular looks really cool with the wheel and stuff. In the basement of the manor, we find a lingering spirit, and we see the remaining memory of her trying to make Davin come to his senses before the spirit disappears. This advances the NPC questline of this world, with the first encounter being the Hayward we found in level 1. After working our way through the entire manor, we find Davin himself being all crazy and shit. He summons his quote-unquote daughters, which appear to be Frankenstein monsters.
Hell.
We don't fight Davin himself, just his daughters. We need to make sure we defeat both of them at roughly the same time or they'll resurrect each other. It's not a very difficult boss battle. I will say the biggest design flaw is when they die, they fall face forward. Once they're dead, Davin freaks out and he starts ranting about how we've destroyed his idols to this mysterious mother we keep hearing about. Hilariously, we just shoot him down while he's ranting and we finish him off quickly after that. It's hard to tell exactly what Davin was trying to accomplish. I've beaten the game, of course, and I still don't really know. In the end, I guess he was just a madman. Appropriately, after defeating this madman, we get a syringe, our next weapon. It uses the same ammo type as our trench gun, so I will never use the syringe, but it's cool. It's basically an acid flamethrower, and then the secondary fire involves polluting the ground. Immediately outside Davin's boss arena, we run into the plague dragon that we've seen flying around. I'm pretty sure the implication is that this is Davin's personal best buddy dragon who was experimented on the most. The dragon's boss music is called My Beloved, so I'm just assuming. Unfortunately, the dragon's real fucking easy, so we cannot appreciate how good his boss music is. My Beloved is one of the best songs in the game, so it's well worth listening to. It's such a shame that the boss is so easy. I really think this boss needs triple the amount of life it has. After the dragon, we get the Bone Blade, which seems to be a heavy alternative to the Hayward Blade. We enter the Osseous Cliffs, which is the initial impact zone of Mother. We even get to see a statue of Mother right here. You may notice the statue has huge tits. Davin made his daughters based on the image of Mother. So hilariously, this means there is a legitimate contextual reason why that boss had huge tits. Because another boss in the near future also has huge tits. The music for this stage is, again, very evocative. It really makes you feel like you're in a dead and decaying wasteland. In this area, we'll be fighting these hag-raven things. There's hordes of them. There's also ghouls that shoot magic blasts. They can be a real problem. We'll find the final NPC encounter in a structure filled with ghouls. This living effigy consumes the Hayward black box we've taken. In return, it gives us a button for our healing doll. It also says a few curious things regarding the Strange. It says memory and ego is the nucleus of the Strange. As we grow, the Strange grows with us, and when enough is gathered, all will be one. If you're a fan of Disco Elysium, and if you've read A Sacred and Terrible Air, this might sound reminiscent of The Pale. Mohrta is not nearly as narratively deep as Disco Elysium. There's probably no reason to seriously think about this flavor text, but it's fun anyway. We continue working our way through the cliffs, fighting the hordes of hag-ravens and ghouls. We can see these strange rotting balls around the area, and at one point, one of these rotting masses falls from the sky right in front of us, just like how the Hayward Journal described from the Plaguemire in Level 1. Eventually, we make our way to the highest cliff, and finally meet Mother. Alright, so we can see that the strange rotting masses falling out of the sky are the decapitated heads of living entities. I'm pretty sure these are the things that were described from the Hayward Journal in Level 1. But I suppose Mother could also qualify as well, since the Osseous Cliffs are specifically noted as being the impact zone of her arrival. In any case, Mother herself is an easy battle. After defeating her rather quickly, we collect the ruin and we're done with World 3. It's a bit of an underwhelming end to the world, but we got to see some titties, so it's not too bad. I would like to take a moment now just to point something out. The final boss of World 1 is a queen. The leader of World 2 is a literal demon princess. The cause of all problems in World 3 is a goth dommy mommy with huge milkers. I just wanted to put that out there in case you haven't noticed. Heading back to the Metro Nexus, we now have some new dialogue with the unique NPCs, except for Yaruga, who gets new dialogues after World 4, for reasons that will be obvious soon. Laoon congratulates us on our efforts and tells us that the Dark Tower is the anchor that the Metro Nexus was built around. It is an ancient structure that acts as a connection point between dimensions, a crucible of pure strange energy. Yuli is now in the Metro Nexus as well. She wants to know why we let her live, and she is also curious about the healing doll. She can't imagine a Hayward machine like us could feel affection. Her beliefs are shaken. Avlon still believes Yuli has died, and she intends to keep it that way. She's gonna hang out in the Metro Nexus for a while. Rimri is happy to see her doll again, and she's considering making a doll of us. Don Braago opens up to us and says his pack leaders used to tell stories of the ancient Hayward's actions. The Haywards used to hunt his people for sport back when they were still savage. Eventually, the Strange evolved their minds, but they still remember the Hayward massacres from long ago. Once the lion people became intelligent, they split up to travel and claim territory. He also pretty much admits that he has an addiction to smoking weed and bitches. Considering the fact that we can't talk and this is our second conversation with this man, I feel like this is oversharing. Talking to Hitch, she tells us she's getting old and tired. The dimension she's from is very hot, which is why she and her people wear mech suits. It seems her people regularly settle into becoming craftsmen. She says she's jealous of us, which I took to mean that she's jealous of our golem nature. She must be concerned about her weakness and mortality. When we talk to the Elder Monk again, he tells us a new story. He remembers the day when hundreds of dimensions all merged together at the same time. Buildings fused and atmospheres mixed and combusted. Bodies and worlds chaotically dying in ways that's hard to comprehend. The species that were intelligent enough grouped up together to survive the strange merging dimensions, when suddenly the ancient Haywards arrived, banding these groups together into a militia to fight and contain the chaos. With the Haywards' guidance, stability was eventually established. But some people blamed the Haywards for all of the strange activity, beginning the Outer Wars. The Haywards emerged victorious and then again established stability. After our conversations, we head into World 4, the Arid Deadlands, the desert dimension. We are greeted by a worm with some sort of trumpet horn contraption. The festival crier speaks of a worm that we must hunt if we want to go to some sort of festival. We find a treasure chest that looks very familiar, and then head out into the desert. The music that accompanies this introduction sets an interesting tone. In terms of composition, there's a sort of royal quality to the sound. The Queen from World 1 also had a royal quality to her boss music, but the flavor of it was a little bit different. Overall, I think this introduction sequence is a great little moment in the game. And after the extremely dreary World 3, the intro to the desert's pretty refreshing. It kinda brings our spirits back up to an adventurous mood. In the desert, we'll find 2 caves that we quickly work through so that we can sound off these giant horn contraptions, which will summon a giant worm. We shoot it out of the sky with a projectile and are then attacked by a second giant worm. It's a very easy boss, unfortunately, so there's not much to say. After defeating the worm, we open the way forward and get a new weapon, the worm horns. They're like magical dual pistols. We continue on, presumably to this festival we've heard about, and we run into a familiar face. It's Yoruga. We have apparently passed the trial of the worm, giving us a right to enter this festival, and now Yoruga is demanding we be a good servant and escort her. Without the ability to speak and refuse her demands, we enter this festival, and it turns out it's a festival of war. This whole area is super cool. The worm people are probably the most interesting species established in this game. There's all sorts of stuff to see here, but of particular note is the hot springs, where some worm people are relaxing with their dick and balls out. I'm gonna be honest, on my first playthrough I was laughing at this guy's cock for like 5 hours. I respect the confidence. So our real task right now is to go along with Yoruga's whims. Again, if you're going through the worlds in order, I feel like having this quirky, strange festival right after World 3 is very smart pacing. Yoruga starts off by demanding we get her more booze, and then we take her to see an outdoor theater performance, where an archer is about to shoot a very excited worm. But then Yoruga sneezes, distracting the archer, who fails to kill the now very displeased worm. These people are just fucking weird. At this point, we notice the healing doll has disappeared, and we find it stuck in a claw machine game. The carny in charge of this game says he is unable to release the doll. We have to gather coins to play the game properly to get our doll back. Yoruga is slightly displeased about this. Once we get 5 coins from doing various things around the festival, we get our doll back and move on to the big show. We take our seats to watch a performance by the Dread King's court magician. Yoruga complains out loud, and we can surmise that she is the daughter of the Dread King. Ludeo, the King of Fools, will perform the first battle to start the Festival of War. Yoruga talks shit, and now we have to fight Ludeo for her. This is one of the better boss fights in the game, and the boss music's pretty good too. But after we defeat him is when the Festival of War really begins. Yoruga gets the fuck out of here, and then we get a new weapon, the Terra Cards. The cards are the most interesting weapon in the game. You throw them and they have random effects, so you're gambling in the middle of battle, essentially. I didn't use the cards while recording the gameplay footage. I stuck with the trench gun to reliably work my way through the game. But the cards are one of the best weapons for sure, and the gambling factor adds an inherent exhilaration to every encounter. Alright, so what is the Festival of War? The Festival of War is the last event the worms partake in before flinging themselves into an orgy of death and violence. The worms have apparently harnessed the power of resurrection, so they adore death and war, and they treat this insane event like a sport, with the ultimate goal being to fight the current Dread King. So basically, the worms are fucking awesome. They essentially party, they get drunk, they have ketamine drug raves in a tent, and then they go to war. For fun. The entire tone of this world is so goofy and insane, it's almost insensitive to the tragedy of World 3. I really like the worms, they're fucking cool. After we get through the worms' ketamine rave, we enter level 3. The battlefield is visually the most chaotic part of the game. Unfortunately, there is no music track that accompanies this area. I feel like that was a missed opportunity. Regardless, we move through the battlefield until we find ourselves a Siege Beast key. We awaken the Siege Beast, who will open a gate for us to fight the next boss. A satanic merry-go-round. Presentation-wise, it's pretty cool, but it's not a particularly exciting fight. It resurrects minions, so we alternate between shooting little guys and the boss. We get the Torment Heads afterwards, which can resurrect enemies to fight for us, but I never use it. Making interesting weapons that a player will actually use in a shooting game seems pretty hard now that I think about it. After just a little bit more nonsense, we get to fight the Dread King himself, Milos. The game does a good job of making this boss fight feel like one of the more epic moments in the game, and the music's pretty awesome too. When we do enough damage, Milos will American History X his horse and then he goes fucking ham. Unfortunately for him, I have played this game 4 times, because the first 3 recordings didn't work, and I wasn't smart enough to check the recordings before I finished the game 3 times. So this 4th time, I kicked his fucking ass. Yeah, and he's not even mad about it, because as we know, this is what the worms do for fucking fun. He even wants us to marry his daughter, and since we've been paying attention, we already know that's Yoruga. When we talk to the king after the battle, he says our blood-stained armor makes us look handsome, and he really wants us to flirt with Yoruga. She pretends she's not interested and mentions that she plans on settling down in the Metro Nexus. When we speak to her again in the Nexus, we learn that she is at least 400 years old. And that completes the NPC quest line of World 4. I'm not sure if you can somehow avoid completing this quest. I would also like to mention that the boss of World 4 is specifically a daddy. There's probably something we can surmise from all of these bosses, but I'll let you come to your own conclusion as to what this implies. I like to believe that this was born from the mind of someone that was raised on DeviantArt and fanfiction websites. We're okay, so finally, we're at the last world. Unfortunately, I have realized too late that I don't really want to finish making this video. But I am too far to stop now. It's almost like my interest in making this video has rapidly declined after I finished talking about the Demon Princess. It's almost like that. Alright, so, World 5, the Frozen Field. It's kind of the most boring dimension in the game, to be entirely honest. It looks nice, but in the end, snow and ice looks like snow and ice. There are some strange magical constructs accenting the area, which gives a little more personality to things. We'll see more of this stuff soon. The enemies of this area are freaky alien guys and giant oysters. The oysters tank hits even with an upgraded trench gun, so they remain quite dangerous. And the aliens spaz out, which can be kind of unsettling. Across the frozen field, we meet Nadia, the witch. She says she is a kindred spirit, although when it comes to the strange, she leans towards fascination rather than the Hayward method of containment and destruction. She knows we are hunting Avlon, and says he's been to the tower that is up ahead. After we finish talking to Nadia, we head over to this tower. Before we can go in, we get a goofy cutscene. So this is another easy world level 1 monster boss. This chicken thing has really good boss music too. It's basically a melodic death metal song like Amon Amarth or Death Clock. It feels like such a waste for this dumbass chicken to have such a good song. After we kill him, we get another melee weapon, the Shrike Lance. It lances all over the place if you're interested in that sort of thing. Inside the tower, we see mining machinery and strange monsters collecting resources. There's an elevator shaft here with a secret room when Nadia is studying leftover research on the strange. Curiously, all research ended on one specific day, and the tower was abandoned, left to the monsters and robots. Nadia will continue her research and will go on ahead. Okay, so coming up is perhaps the strangest moment in the game. As we've been ascending the tower, we see some sort of creature stuck in various parts of the tower. There's a little robot in this area which we release, and when we follow it, it leads to a room where we find the head of the creature. The creature is trapped, and it's crying. We never find out what this is about, whether this tower was built to trap the creature, or some strange phenomena caused this to happen. The game doesn't elaborate. Theoretically, the research that Nadia is reading probably contains information on this creature, but we don't get to see any of that. I kind of assumed that this creature leaked in from another dimension during one of the strange dimension overlaps, and unfortunately fused directly into the structure. I also believe that whoever was here before was exploiting the situation for research. There's no evidence whatsoever that there was an attempt to rescue this creature. The robot seems to have come to this chamber to play a lullaby for the creature, and then the air starts bleeding. A vision of the world ruin appears, and then a door off in the distance opens, which leads to the boss of this level. The boss is a magical robot sentinel thing, but fuck that. I don't care about him. This whole setup around the creature is very Dark Souls-esque, isn't it? There are no words, but we can assume so much about the situation, and nothing is satisfying, because we can do nothing for this trapped creature. It makes me a little bit upset that I had to sit here and watch this creature cry and I could do nothing to make the situation better. After defeating the stupid fucking robot, we get the Astral Tome. So we are now a wizard. Hooray. I feel very happy and excited about this world. Maybe I could use my magic to help creatures in distress. I don't know, maybe that's a stupid fucking idea. We move on into level 3, the Vergless College. The ice-themed ancient ethereal mage technology aesthetic is pretty cool. It's a strange level. There are none of the hectic, action-packed feelings like in World 2 or 4. It feels more slow and methodical like World 3. It's not a total cakewalk, but I think in terms of combat and enemy design, the fifth dimension is certainly my least favorite. It's just not exciting. We eventually find Nadia deep in a library, and she apologizes to us. Avalon was not here at the tower. She just told us that so that we would go in, clear the tower of monsters, and then she could enter safely and research how to hatch the crystal egg on her back, which contains her sister. Nadia says all the research ends with the same line, all becomes one. The living effigy in World 3 also said, all becomes one, when it was telling us about the nature of the strange. We leave Nadia in the library and continue working through the college. We need to find medallions in the level, which will open the boss room. This boss is strange. It's a bunch of compacted shit. There's a weird moment where it freezes time, a mechanic that has never happened before, so it comes off very confusing. I thought my controller died the first time I fought this fight. But we finish off the boss, and then the remaining corpses all fuse together to form a new boss. This boss is strange. Literally. This being is from the strange. This will be elaborated on shortly. The strategy for this fight is to rush him. The longer the fight goes on, the more he will use bullshit dangerous attacks. So just kill him quickly. After we defeat the strange being, its lingering voice will tell us to enter a portal that's in one of the rooms in the college. When we enter the portal, it takes us to a battle in the center of our mind. The strange being looks into our soul, and it makes basic, shallow observations about our existence, to be entirely honest. But then it digs a little deeper and it reveals who we are, sort of. We see that we were a normal child, and our parents were killed at one point. The Haywards would take us in and train us, but eventually one day we die in battle, and the Haywards turn us into the Generation 7 that we are now. We get some more basic existential rambling regarding the nature of our being. This is all stuff that we've seen before. I don't feel like I need to do a deep dive on this character arc. The interesting part of all of this is that the being asserts that it's like a finger of the strange. It's not some grand percentage of the strange, it's a small piece of it. I feel like all of this talk about fingers is just a metaphor for being a cog in a greater machine. Are you just a tool, or do you have deeper free will and desires, etc., etc.? After we sit through all of its rambling nonsense, the strange being says he will give us our final ruin if we accept the curse. We can lose our healing doll's healing ability, our dash invincibility frames, our ability to use mana, or a fourth secret curse. The fourth curse means that he will take Nadia's life. I take the dash curse because I don't care about invincibility frames. It seems like the weakest curse to have. Once we take our curse, we're taken back to the real world, where we see Nadia in a pool of blood. The crystal egg has hatched, but her sister isn't here. Nadia cries as we leave. We now have all the ruins, and the Black Gate is unlocked. But first, we find Nadia waiting for us in the Metro Nexus. She tells us when she and her sister were children, they would visit a woman in the woods. Their parents told them to stay away from the witch, but the witch was very kind, so the children didn't believe their parents. Nadia always knew she was different, special even. The witch saw this and took Nadia under her wing. And one day, she gave Nadia her staff and told her it would bring her family great fortune ahead of the coming winter. So Nadia brings the staff home, and then the staff activates, leaving her sister encased in a crystal egg, and their parents disappeared. Nadia has spent her whole life trying to hatch the egg, And in that moment in the Verglis College, the strange being also made contact with Nadia, offering her a deal. Half of her lifespan to hatch the egg. Of course, Nadia accepts. The egg hatches, but her sister was dead the instant she was encased in crystal. Nadia wants us to come with her to the frozen field where she's buried Noelle. This whole side story is one of those things that I really like, because it's sad, but it has an ambiguous element to it. Was the witch evil, like the parents warned? Was the staff a benevolent gift, or was it an evil trick? Maybe Nadia simply lost control of it at the wrong time. Between the trapped creature and Nadia's story, World 5 is low-key kind of the saddest world. World 1 is just fantastical fun. All the monsters are bugs and resurrected skeletons that sound like xylophones. World 2 is brutal and has literal demons. World 3 is horrific, but it's on such a wide scale that the tragedy doesn't cut deep into the heart. World 4 is just goofy. But then World 5 comes in and gives you this From Software-esque, unsatisfyingly sad side story. We meet with Nadia in the frozen field at her sister's grave. Every soul in this world is cursed. Nadia knows she doesn't have that much time left. She sees the potential in us to stop the strange from causing more tragedy. Maybe that's just a dying hope. She calls out to the strange being and sacrifices the rest of her lifespan to lift our curse. After going through 5 dimensions, we have seen what becomes of those who entwine themselves with the strange. It's a curse. Nadia says, "Our time together was short, but I am glad to have met you." And then she's taken away. The strange being upholds his part of the deal and removes his fucking curse. And then we go back to the Nexus to prepare for our final encounter. Yaruga is distraught. She doesn't want us to go. Don Barago admits he doesn't think we're all that bad. Hitch likes us too, and offers to make some final equipment repairs before we go. Rimri wants us to keep the doll safe. It loves us more than we'll ever understand. The first owner's love brought the doll to life in exchange for her own. And now the doll gives that to us, unconditionally. The Elder Moke tells us one final poem from his people before we leave. We are a beautiful creature, with a vast and immense soul. When we're ready, Leun tells us Yuli has already gone ahead into the Black Gate. When we enter, she's there, waiting for us. She believes that Avlon has lived too long and has become too lost in questions and history. Perhaps he is more misguided than he once seemed. Avlon wants to accept the chaos of the strange. To him, that's natural, and natural is order, and that reality is easier for him to reconcile, rather than constantly fighting and containing the strange. I'm gonna say right now that I think this rationale is retarded. Oh no! Things ain't going so good, Cletus. Maybe we should let things get real fucked up. Yeah, 'cause that's like nature, man. Nature doesn't care about people, Cletus. We need to let nature be nature. You know what? Fuck it. I really think Avlon is retarded. If he's tired of fighting, then he should just kill himself and stop bothering me. This motherfucker, he's tired of fighting, so he makes me fight through 5 whole ass dimensions to make his stupid point, which I still don't agree with. So yeah, we work through his stupid Dark Tower, which is basically a gauntlet through a bunch of Haywards. There's not much to say. The Dark Tower takes like 7 minutes to get through. Once we get to the top, we finally meet Avlon for real. He asks us to think back on our journey. What happened to those who exploited the strange versus those who lived with it? This is a hard question to answer because honestly, I have a hard time distinguishing what exactly is considered strange in each dimension and what is a natural part of each dimension. To me, everything is fucking strange. Avlon believes that when contained, the strange becomes unstable, which is clearly fucking bullshit. The Demon Princess from World 2 harnessed the strange to build an empire. That factory was very stable until we came and killed everyone. The strange in World 3 was very much not contained, and the whole fucking dimension died. Avlon is making leaps of logic and correlating things in an entirely retarded way. Distinctively retarded. He says he, quote-unquote, subtly guided us to make the same conclusions he has, but that is also complete bullshit. We just went through a tower of at least a dozen other Haywards. Did this motherfucker make all of them fight their way through 5 dimensions too, or was that just us? Because from my perspective, it seems like he just had a conversation with these other fucking assholes instead of making them do bullshit like I had to do. Whatever point he thought he was making, no. Fuck this guy. When he asks us to join him, I shoot him. And I miss, because I am anticlimactic as hell. But finally, we fight the final boss. It's a pretty hard fight. It's probably the hardest fight in the game, naturally. Avlon basically has super versions of all the moves that the previous world bosses have. Even with a fully upgraded set of equipment, it can be a real challenge. I want to take a moment to talk about his boss music for a second. It starts off with this epic intro, and it's all real good stuff and appropriately climactic sounding for a final boss battle. But then, in the middle, the song does a switch, going into this flamenco sort of classical guitar section. And then, this accordion melody comes in over the top. It's the single best moment of music in a video game that came out in 2025. This part sounds so fucking good. I could talk about it forever, but this video is already too long. Just listen to that accordion. I don't even like Avlon, but you can hear how fucking tired he is in that melody. It's an amazing track. The flamenco section is the single best thing to come from this entire game. The Mohrta soundtrack is Game Soundtrack of the Year 2025. I don't care what anyone else says. Everyone else has shitty taste. That's why everyone likes Expedition 33. This song is so fucking good. This section of the song is so fucking good that you can say fuck the rest of this game. Scumhead can go to bed every night now. And no matter what happens in life, they should feel content because they wrote this fucking song. You might believe that I made this video just to talk about the Demon Princess. You're wrong. I actually made this video so I could talk about this fucking song, because I know it's not going to be appreciated the way it should be. So yeah, we defeat Avlon, and because we've completed all NPC quests, we get to fight the true final boss. The Strange takes us to the place where the Outer Wars first began, and after some more redundant dialogue, we are metamorphosized into the image of our souls. We become Lovecraftian gods, and then shoot lasers at each other for several minutes. This whole thing is absurd and comes out of nowhere, but I kind of like it anyway. It feels crazy and hectic and ends things on a strong and unique fight. The final boss music is pretty cool too. It doesn't have the emotional melodies of the regular Avlon fight, but this one sounds even more final and climactic. And there's no other song on the soundtrack which sounds anything like it, which is a great touch. After we finally, for real, defeat Avlon, there's a moment where they almost do a defeat equals friendship sort of thing. But thankfully, Avlon decides to just go ahead and die. Rest in piss, you fucking moron. I'm turning my replies off. Don't at me. I don't want to hear any more of your retarded philosophy. We see the Hayward cavalry arrive to the outskirts of Kosenoda, where Yuli and Mohrta are waiting. Yuli speaks for Mohrta. The mission is complete. Avlan is dead. We will not be returning to the Hayward base. We will stay as the warden of this sector in all the dimensions around it. We are called Mohrta, and we will be addressed as such. The commander asserts that routine checks to measure strange activity is enough, as the Haywards have done for a long time. This assertion is easily refuted. The commander considers it a shame that we will not rise to Divine Sentry, as our potential showed, but ultimately we are allowed to stay. We now guard the portal to the Metro Nexus, and no other Haywards will gain entry on our watch. In the end, we see all of our friends and various denizens from the Metro Nexus are now populating Kosenoda village. The game ends on a shot of 2 gravestones. We see Nadia's staff has been placed there, so I like to think that this is for Nadia and Noelle. She deserves it. And that's it. When I first started making this video, I had various things I thought I would talk about, but this video is long enough. I will just end by saying I think there could easily be a sequel to Mohrta. The world building that was laid down here is very good and leaves things open for Scumhead to take this universe any way they would like. It doesn't even necessarily have to be another boomer shooter. This world is robust with ideas. I will be looking forward to more Scumhead games and music. Okay, bye.
Articles.
けどすんじゃねえか。
おい。Sham. Sham, kör. Här nere då. Articles. Oj. Oj. Don terra scuro. Allora. Oj. That close. Thunder scuro. Sham. Honro. Honro. Mohrta. Articles. Sham, kör. Wake up. Oj. Tandere scuro. Shamshe. Shamshe. Tandere scuro. Oh yeah.
Onero. Hanero. Onero.
Serious no feed.
Shom. Cosa. Mohrta. Onero. Mohrta. E Buja.